Hey, what's going on, guys? Bringing you a great video today talking about this new Xbox Series X that they just revealed. So this is a really sweet mesh mine kill. I thought he was going to keep going down the road, so I was waiting, and then I saw him go that way, and I thought, I might as well try to Kobe this. Rest in peace. So this is the background video will be me playing Blackout. I started playing this again. I haven't really played Call of Duty for, a couple months. Played some Modern Warfare when it came out, and it was pretty good, but there was just, I don't know. There's something about Blackout. As much as I hate Blackout, there's something about it. It's just, it's like an old relationship. Like, it's bad for you, but you go back to it because you miss it, so that's why I'm here. But this will be a sweet win. This was actually my 100th win. For some of you that are pros, that's not very good, but I'm not that good, so 100 is nice. And then the cool thing about this gameplay, first of all, I love this little charm I have on my weapon. It's called Science. And I just realized a couple days ago that it actually is probably making fun of flat earthers, but I just thought it was cool because it's got the sun and moon on there, and they're it's just a cool little unique thing. So, but the funny thing about this game is I actually had to change my batteries in the middle of the game. So this was one of those games where I don't normally drop Asylum. I usually drop Array, but I dropped Asylum because I was trying to get the challenge for getting 2 kills with an operator weapon. And one of the easiest ways to get an operator weapon is out of the mystery box. So I dropped that Asylum until I got something at the box. And there's a little bit of dead time here when I'm looting and stuff like that, but, this video might take a little bit because we're going to talk about this new thing that was, that Phil Spencer released. So, he released, and I'll tell you when I change the batteries, of course. So, he released this blog, which is, I'll link it in the description. It's at xbox.com, but it's just, the title of it is The New Xbox Series X. Fastest, most powerful. And then you can play a video. And then really the main title of this is what you can expect for the next generation of gaming. And it says a letter from Phil Spencer, head of Xbox. So I'm going to go through this. I'm not going to read it exactly word for word the whole way because it's, I don't want to do that exactly. I'm just going to highlight the parts that are best. But he basically starts it, says, the future of gaming has never been more inspiring. Creativity's flourishing. New services are empowering you to discover more games. Cloud creates massive opportunity to stream console quality games. And play wherever you want. And so it says, for most of us, nothing's more inspiring than the dawn of a new console generation. And you know what? I have to agree with that. I've said for the entire time now, since we found out some of the information about this console, that this is going to be the biggest jump that we've experienced in consoles in 15 years. It's going to be the biggest jump since 2005 with the Xbox 360 from the original Xbox. It's going to be a massive jump. Massive jump. And we're going to get into that here in a minute. So he says, the next generation, when we know you expect the next generation of consoles to set new standards in graphical power and processing speed, converging together in games that look incredible and feel like they're alive. It means it's defined by worlds that are visually astounding and immediately immersive, with innovative leaps in the CPU, the GPU, and the storage technology. They're calling it they're giving us frictionless access. I just did some air quotes. I know you can't see that. I'm an idiot. To new stories and new creators constantly. So they've been using it in this. They have an internal take-home program at Microsoft, which is really cool. A lot of companies have this. Like the internet company in my area, I talked to one of the techs when he came out and installed my internet 7 or 8 years ago about that. And he said it was cool because they got to test the really high-speed stuff, the new stuff, before it went out to actual customers. So it basically just mentions that they've been using the Series X on their internal take-home program, and they're really energized by the feedback they've been getting. And so it also says, this is important, it says, at Xbox, we value being open and transparent with you, and I'm proud to be able to share details about some of the technologies we are enabling for the next generation, and look forward to boldly sharing more as we head towards E3. Which is cool, and this is, again, just like the Series X reveal, which was the last video I made. I know it was a long time ago. Thank you if you're here watching this and you watch that too. I know it's hard to, rely on someone who uploads so inconsistently, but I upload when I want to upload, and I haven't felt like doing that in a while. But I've got a lot of great content. I've got a lot of great footage, I should say, of some really solid wins. I've got like 4 or 5 9 kill wins in Blackout, which that's tied for the most kills I've ever gotten in a game. Maybe I have 10. I think I might have 10. But I've gotten 9 like 4 times at least recently, maybe 5 times recently. So I'm getting better, but I've got a lot of cool footage. So maybe I'll put some of that up soon. And I might just experiment with just throwing it up there. Maybe not even doing a voiceover or anything like that, just getting that information out there. I don't know. I don't really know how it's going to go. But anyway, thank you for being here. So this says, it starts out and says a superior balance of power and speed. By the way, I love the crow when I kill a guy. That's still my favorite one. Still my favorite one. So superior balance of power and speed. And now I am going to kind of read these word for word, some of these. So it says, compared to the previous generation, Xbox Series X represents a superior balance of power and speed in console design, advancing on all technological fronts to deliver amazing, dynamic, living worlds and minimize any aspects that can take you out of the experience. Our job at Team Xbox is to give teams the tools they need to achieve their ambitions and tap into the console's power with efficiency, a few of which we're detailing today. Raw power is just part of the story. So that's kind of what we've talked about before. You know, like, it's going to be ultra powerful for sure. But, you know, even hearing some of the things that Sony's doing with, like, dedicated chips for audio and that kind of stuff, I really think that the raw power is not just the whole story. And, I mean, obviously, he just said that's part of the story. But I just mean, I think there's a lot more integration going on than we're expecting. And I think this... wow, that's weird. It looks like some discolored numbers. I wonder if that's just my screen. I don't know. Whatever. Sorry. So this article confirms that, because they're basically going and talking about, like, just some integrations that we're not expecting, and I'm super excited about this. So, a next generation custom processor. Xbox Series X is our most powerful console ever, powered by our custom designed processor, leveraging AMD's latest Zen 2, which we already knew, which is awesome. Zen 2 is very powerful. It's essentially on par with anything that Intel has released currently. It's not quite there, but it's very close. It's 90%, 95% of what Intel has released recently, which is an absolute, complete, stark contrast to the last generation, which is the Xbox One, because what AMD released and what they released in these consoles in 2013 is absolutely unbelievably underpowered, and it has been the entire time. It was underpowered from day one, and not like, oh, it's not the best. It was bad from day one. It was not good from day one, and so this is completely different. This is in complete contrast from that. So this is basically has parity with Intel's processors and is on a level of just insane performance upgrade. We're talking about, you know, potentially 80% performance for the same clocks. And if they clock it higher, which is absolutely going to be clocked higher, if they get up to like 3.2 gigahertz, 3.0, 3.2, that means we're going to get a 100% increase in the CPU power, which is actually really significant. But on top of that, it's not just an 8-core CPU. It's an 8-core 16-thread CPU, whereas the current is an 8-core 8-thread. So, I mean, we're talking about 100% increase in performance. It's ridiculous. We're not ready for this. You guys are not ready for this. But the exciting part is it's going to have RDNA 2 architecture, which is something that's been speculated on. We knew it was going to have RDNA, which is AMD's new architecture for graphics. We knew it was going to have that, but we didn't know it was going to have RDNA 2.0. Again, there was some speculation, and I kind of thought that it would, but, you know, no one really was sure about that. And so this is delivering 4 times the processing power of an Xbox One and enabling developers to leverage 12 teraflops of GPU performance. Okay, now, I want to take a minute. Let's all take a minute and have a moment of silence for the people. I've gotten in arguments with people over comments on this repeatedly, and there have been so many people that were absolutely adamant that there was no way the next generation consoles were going to have 12 teraflops, because that leaked a long time ago. People were adamant that it was not going to have 12 teraflops. So let's just take a moment of silence for those people. Let's have a moment of silence so that those people can reflect on their actions and reflect on how they popped off without knowing any information. All right, that's all they deserve. So 12 teraflops is sick. That's twice that of an Xbox One X, more than 8 times what the original Xbox One had. So, in my opinion, this is a true generational leap. 8 times the power, that's definitely what we're looking at. Like, I think the Xbox 360 had 256 gigabytes of RAM, and the Xbox One had 8 gigabytes, right? So that's about a 16 times improvement, well, I think it was 512 on the 360, sorry, to 8 gigabytes. That's a 16 times improvement. That's what we're talking about. So, oh, that's great. The next line says Xbox Series X delivers a true generational leap in processing and graphics power with cutting-edge techniques, resulting in higher frame rates, larger, more sophisticated game worlds, and immersive experience unlike anything seen in console gaming. So it's just like I was saying before, this is going to be big deal. But the other thing to keep in mind is Digital Foundry did some tests comparing the GPU in the Xbox One X to the AMD 5700 series graphics cards, which are out now on the PC. And they compared two cards that had 40 compute units each, which is just the technical part of it. And he found that it actually was a little bit better per compute unit. So from what their estimation said, and also from what I've heard from others, is that 12 teraflops of this GPU actually is slightly more than what you would be used to, because they've said that this GPU's 8 or 9 teraflops is about equal to 11 or 12 teraflops. So essentially, it's probably going to be more. It's probably going to be like 2.2x or 2.25x of what we currently have with the Xbox One X, which is awesome because the Xbox One X can already do 60 FPS in a lot of games. So doubling that gives you the ability to do up to 120 FPS in games. Current games that are going on, which is awesome, or allows you to double up on the eye candy and make it look even better at 60 FPS. So the next thing they talk about is variable rate shading. It's just a patented form of VRS, which is very rate shading. Just allows them to more efficiently utilize the full power of the Series X. So instead of having to render the entire screen all at once, they can actually prioritize importance on certain things, like things in the front or the back. So this it's basically just a way that allows them to... It gives the developers the ability to make more stable frame rates and higher resolution without really impacting what the final image looks like. So it's kind of just like a scheduling priority thing. You know, not something most people care too much about, but it's just going to free up a little bit more space, allow the games to be a little bit more streamlined. So then they have hardware accelerated DirectX ray tracing. Hardware accelerated means there's going to be actual dedicated hardware on the silicon, on the actual chip, that's going to allow them to do ray tracing. It's only going to handle the ray tracing. And you can expect more dynamic and realistic environments powered by hardware accelerated ray tracing, a first for console gaming. He says that means true-to-life lighting, which is basically what ray tracing is all about. They trace each individual ray of light as if it were an actual, photon of light traveling around an area, so reflections and stuff like that. So it says true-to-life lighting, accurate reflections, and realistic acoustics in real time as you explore the game world. And that, of course, refers to sound. And they've actually been doing ray trace sound on some games already, so that's already a thing that exists, but that allows you to have truly extremely realistic sounds. So, our next section is titled Immersion in an Instant. The next console generation is going to be defined by more playing and less waiting. And when play begins, we know many gamers demand ultra-low latency to be as immersed and precise as possible. To this end, the team analyzed every step. Okay, hold on. I'm going to back up. That's true. Ultra-low latency is a serious thing, and that's why people play at 144 FPS or 240 FPS. That's why people play at 60 FPS instead of 30, because there's less delay. The more times the frame is being displayed a second, the more chances there are to register a movement and an input and show you what's on screen. So it optimizes latency. The higher the frame rate, the less latency. So he says, to this end, the team analyzed every step between player and game, from controller to console to display, and asked how we could make it faster. So, I mean, this really is a ground-up approach, saying, look, let's look at every single step in the pipeline of when the game is being run on the console to when it displays on the TV to when someone puts in an input. Let's look at every one of those and really change everything we can about it. And that's so promising to hear that. So SSD storage is the next thing. With our next generation SSD, nearly every aspect of playing games is improved. And that is absolutely true from someone who upgraded to an SSD, not thinking I needed it. I had one for my system, but I didn't have one for games. Not knowing how different it is to play on an SSD is ridiculous. So it says Game Worlds, again, it's with our next generation SSD, nearly every aspect of playing games is improved. Game worlds are larger, more dynamic, and load in a flash, and fast travel is just that, fast. Now, really quick, Digital Foundry just did a breakdown of this. I watched 2 breakdowns of this, which I didn't even know it came out, so I know I'm a couple days late, but Digital Foundry did a breakdown on this, and they said, Phil Spencer is very calculated in what he says, and I fully agree with that. When Phil Spencer says stuff, he doesn't just say stuff. He says very, very specific words and phrases so that people can read into it as much as they want to, but he does some foreshadowing. So to talk about quick resume, The new quick resume feature lets you continue multiple games from a suspended state almost instantly, returning you to where you were and what you were doing without waiting through long loading screens, which is really sick. I still struggle with that on this console right now. It's supposed to be a thing, but if we're playing a game and I switch to YouTube or switch to settings to go to something, I load back up the game, it's all choppy and it never has quite worked quite right. So this one, next thing is called Dynamic Latency Input, DLI, and this goes back to what he was saying about analyzing every step. So this says we're optimizing latency in the player to console pipeline, starting with our Xbox wireless controller, which leverages our high bandwidth proprietary wireless communication protocol when connected to the console, which is their direct Wi-Fi, basically, which is what the controller, here's the word, use right now. With dynamic latency input, a new feature which synchronizes input immediately with what is displayed, controls are even more precise and responsive. And that has been the biggest thing for me because I was always a console gamer, and then I went to PC for like a year and a half, and I came back to console, and really the only thing I've struggled with, the graphics are, they're okay, they're good. The 4K is better than the 1440 I'm playing on the PC, and that's by choice, but the thing I've struggled the most with is the latency. When you're playing in a game from the controller just doesn't feel quite responsive enough. Nothing like a mouse at 144 FPS where you just move the mouse ever so slightly and the screen moves, and it basically feels as if you're actually controlling the screen. Whereas in shooter games on the console, you just don't quite feel like you're actually controlling the screen. I don't know if it's just me, but I don't know. So anyway, okay, I have to probably pick up the pace a little bit here because I'm already starting to get where I'm going. So HDMI 2.1, which is something that I've expected. We've partnered with the HDMI forum and TV manufacturers to enable the best gaming experience through features such as auto low latency mode, and variable refresh rate. Both of those are new things with HDMI 2.1 with the additional bandwidth that allows everything to work. So this allows the Xbox One and Series X to automatically set the connected display to its lowest latency mode. VRR synchronizes the display's refresh rate to the game's refresh rate. That's something we've talked about before. That basically allows the game and the console to be synced up so that there's not really too much delay in what you're seeing on screen versus screen tearing and that kind of stuff, keeping it smooth. Also, it says it ensures minimal lag, most responsive, and that's true. It does do that. Hey, real quick, just wanted to interject. This is actually where I changed my batteries. In that previous gunfight, which was terrible, by the way, I know, my battery's rumble went away, so I knew it was going to die, so I tried to loot. I got sniped, and so I went over, cleared that whole area. Now I'm just checking my back, clearing this area real quick before I go to change the batteries. So anyway, I told you I'd tell you, and I forgot, so here you go. And then 120 FPS support. With support for up to 120 FPS, frames per second, Xbox Series X allows developers to exceed standard FPS output in favor of heightened realism or fast-paced action. Now, of course, again, as I've said before, that's going to come down to the developer. That's not going to be forced. No way. So next generation of game compatibility. Benefits of the next generation extend in every direction, bringing greater visual fidelity and improved loading speeds to your existing gaming legacy. In addition to new games, we're continuing our commitment to compatibility with Series X and investing in technology that makes game ownership easier across generations. So they're talking about smart delivery. Says this technology empowers you to buy a game once and know that whether you're playing on the One or the Series X, you're getting the right versions. We're making the commitment to use smart delivery on all our exclusive Xbox Studios titles, including Halo Infinite, ensuring you have to purchase it once to play the best available version, whichever you play on. And that's available for all publishers and developers, so they can use it for whatever titles they want to release on the Xbox One, and then later move it up to the Series X if they want. And then they talk about Game Pass and this other thing, 4 generations of gaming. They're basically saying that they didn't do away with backwards compatibility, so they've still allowed... and that was where I changed my batteries back there at that rock. I totally missed it because I've been reading this article the whole time. But back there where I was just staying put for a minute, that's where I changed my batteries across the street there. So he's basically saying they didn't give up on it. He talked about the project, or he talked about the team basically going back and not working anymore on backwards compatibility. And a lot of people were upset about that. But basically what I think that means is that they were working on the next backwards compatibility. So basically you're going to be able to play all current backwards compatible games that are available for Xbox One, Xbox 360, and the Xbox One. You're going to be able to play all those on the Series X. So that's sick. It's a good thing for those of us that have that. So this just says generation players at the center. Xbox Series X is our fastest, most powerful console ever. This is his wrap up. Designed for a console generation that has you at its center. This means high fidelity gaming, experience enclosed in a quiet and bold design, which is epic. He says quiet. Let's talk about how quiet it's going to be, because this Xbox One X is loud. With the ability to discover thousands of games across 4 generations, all with more playing and less waiting. Whether it's amazing, whether it's empowering the creators of our 15 studios, fueling game discovery with the Game Pass, or expanding what and where you can play with Project xCloud, Team Xbox stands for frictionless pathways between players and the best experiences in our remarkable art form has to offer. The Series X represents that same commitment for players who want immediate immersion in games that also look and feel better than ever. And it says we can't wait to share more details about the new Xbox with you in the coming months. Jump in, Phil Spencer. So that's pretty exciting, guys. I mean, I was already excited because what I've been hearing from Sony is just like they really focusing on trying their best to make sure that they... Look at that. Look how many times it takes me to do that. They really wanted to focus on making sure that this next generation truly is better. So even you look at that with Phil Spencer and you say, look, they're looking at every single thing from the controller latency to the actual latency on the game to the display to, you know, variable refresh rate to higher refresh rates to more power, more CPU power, more GPU power twice on both fronts. A 100% increase in CPU power, 100% increase in GPU power. They're improving on both fronts. They're going to the SSD, which is maybe the biggest upgrade, even though the upgrade with the CPU and GPU is hard to explain. Because I would bet that most people gaming right now don't really remember much about gaming 15 years ago. You know, I mean, I'm 30, so
destiny now, Reznov.
You know, I can remember that because I was 16 when I bought my Xbox 360, and I bought it with my first job. You know, I spent a bunch of money. My first, right? I saved up a bunch of money at my first job trying to save that up, but I just can't believe how exciting this generation is going to be. I'm so much more excited, and I taunted there. I've started taunting a little bit in this game. As much as I hate doing that, I've started doing it. Sometimes it just feels right. Like sometimes the guys, you know, I don't know. Sometimes the guys just do stupid stuff, but so it's just really exciting. I'm really excited. And then you read all this, and it's even that much more exciting to hear what they're doing. HDMI 2.1 and just, you know, all this stuff is just coming together to really make it a truly, just pop my knuckles there, I haven't even heard that, but really just a truly, in all aspects, they basically just looked at every single aspect and said, look, let's start over. And that's what they should do every generation. You know, the One X and the One S, those were not new generations. PS4 Pro, that was not a new generation. A new generation is where they seriously up the power, and then they look at every single aspect and how they can improve it, and that's what they did here. And I'm really excited for that. So I can't wait. I hope you guys are excited as I am. And thanks for watching my win. And I will catch you guys in the next one. Appreciate it. Again, I'll link it in the description below so you can read the article for yourself. Take it easy. Yor.